Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And sometimes work takes the form of a job. Sometimes work takes the form of work that you do because you're passionate about it and making on your own. And so for those of you here for the first time, I'm Roy, startup investor in the future of work. Ashita's spending a few months with us as a fellow at Bloomberg Beta, where one of the areas she's been looking at is the creator economy, which is, this great, I think has become this convenient phrase for independently making money by creating media or something else of which you're proud. You can tell me if I have the definition wrong. But the how to get started question is one that people sometimes ask of like, I've written a blog post or two. I recorded something to YouTube. My son and I were thinking about going on Twitch this weekend, but that's different from making money. So Ashita, how do I get started earning a living as a creator?
Yeah. So the creator economy is essentially the media economy. You're pretty much creating media, putting it on the internet, and getting paid for it. I think the first thing to do if you're absolutely starting from scratch and wanting to make a living as a creator is to answer a few questions. And one of them is what type of media you want to start up creating. Is it going to be a newsletter? Is it going to be digital art? Podcasting, whatever it is.
And for something like a person on Etsy then who makes like objects, you would consider that part of the creator economy, or it's like kind of, but not exactly?
I would say it kind of fits into it, right? You're kind of almost more, not gig economy, but it is like you're doing
it. But it's sort of like hybrids and that kind of thing. But I hear you. Keep going.
Yeah. So, once you figured this out and, you decided, you want to do a newsletter, I would stick to one thing before diversifying the type of content you put out into the world. So if I were starting a newsletter, I would wait until I have a hefty mailing list before transporting my audience across to, podcasting or YouTube or whatever it might be.
Yep.
So that's the first step. And then I think part of it also is figuring out who you want to create for. Because if I wanted to do something like creating financial knowledge for, 20-year-olds, versus 40-year-old parents, like that content is going to be so different. So it's important to figure out who exactly you want to create for at first. And that also defines what platform you take. So for the financial knowledge example, I might pick TikTok.
Why? Just to walk through the example on that, because I think that's so powerful. As like an old, I wouldn't necessarily know that TikTok is a place where you would go for financial wisdom. So help me understand a little bit. Why was that an obvious one for you in that setting?
Yeah, TikTok has so many pockets and communities, and there's like a community around financial knowledge. I wouldn't say it's very credible, but
that's fine. I mean, obviously, like any platform on the internet, you're going to get anti-vaxxers and, the financial equivalent of anti-vaxxers and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So Gen Z, this younger generation, lives on TikTok, and they are excited about investing in financial knowledge, like literacy. They're more excited.
So hold on. I'm going to do another live example for a second. If I want to create content of me trash talking my 12-year-old son while he beats me at chess, where should I do that?
Probably TikTok.
All right. We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah. And people have shorter attention spans. So
you figure out what medium you want to be in, what audience you want to reach. And I know, like, for example, when we started a company, we wanted to reach gamers. There were a lot of gamers on Kickstarter. We started the product on Kickstarter, like that kind of thing. What comes after that?
Yeah. So once you figure out your platform, you know that this will help you monetize and find the right audience. I think the next natural step is to start creating and building your audience in tandem. And a lot of early days is...
I just want to stop and ask you, how crappy is it okay for my first content to be?
It can be horrible. No one's really going to see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. Good point. Sorry, keep going though.
Yeah, early days, it might be a lot of putting out content and getting nothing back.
Yeah.
So it's smart to have some sort of strategy of how you distribute content. Is it across your social media, friends and family, whatever it might be? It's going to be a lot of, creating and not getting much back. You kind of have to hustle through it, but you're going to see your initial, early audience at this point, and it's important to be very receptive of how they give you feedback, because then you realize, am I creating the right type of content for this audience? And is this the type of creator I want to be? All these, questions that you can answer, but it's going to be a lot of iteration at this point. And I think the biggest thing is to not only focus, going viral is, important here and there, but I think it's important to focus on creating quality content that excites people to come back. And, if you create content that people can't find elsewhere, they don't have any choice but to stay.
And when do I start getting paid?
Yeah. Well,
because in the case of This Is Not Advice, my creator economy gig here,
right.
I get paid. This is my monetization mechanism for this is venture capital. So that one's pretty straightforward. But if I was just trying to make a living independently as a creator, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on what platform you choose. So if you're doing Substack, right, you're monetizing you have a subscription model, and you kind of just have to wait until you have an audience to say, okay, it's time, I can live off of this. I think the first thing is to build that audience before you can convert that audience into paying customers, and then tiered paying customers, whatever it might be. But the first goal, unfortunately, is to build that community around you of people willing to pay and stay.
And somebody's willing to pay when they want your content enough to ask for the next one.
Yeah. And then again, another thing that is important is the community aspect. Like,
what does that mean? Like, what's the difference between a community and an audience? I mean, I think I know, but I'm asking for our watchers and listeners. Like, I could have an audience of 1,000 people watching every video or something like that. Is that the same thing as a community or not?
Yeah, maybe this example will help. So Lenny Rachitsky, he's a popular Substack writer. He has a very popular one on product management. And in addition to that, he has a paid Slack community. So people are paying for his content. They have a subscription to it, but then also they have access to this community of people who are product managers. So, it's probably one of the more rich communities I've been a part of. People are sharing jobs, they're connecting, it's basically his fan base hanging out together.
Talking to one another. So audience is I'm the creator talking to you. Community is we're talking to each other.
Yeah. Community connecting with each other. And then that becomes your superpower, right? Quality content and community that you can't find elsewhere. So you just have no option but to stay and pay for it.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Anything else you'd add before we wrap for this little intro for today?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. Like, you kind of have to start creating and building something that people can't find elsewhere.
Awesome. I love it. That's so simple and straightforward and clear. Hard to do, but easy to describe, which is what we love. So thank you for that. It's great to have wisdom come from our summer fellows out to the world. And, for those of you who are watching for the first time, we get the questions we answer in part from things that are on our minds, in part from things that come from you. So you should feel free to ask. And the reason we say this is not advice is because none of us is telling you what you need to do for yourself. We're giving our observations on what works, and ultimately you got to decide. So thank you.